As a teenager, I was never really happy with my body, and I was bullied a whole lot in school. And bodybuilding to me was an escape. My music teacher got me into it, and then I got into wanting to not just perform better to make the tennis team, but to also look better. And I got more and more into bodybuilding, but I was never really quite happy with my body. And I got into the whole like trying to gain extreme amounts of weight and then trying to lose extreme amounts of weight. That was hard on my body, not the right way to do things. But I guess long story short, I got into a period of time as a young adult where I was totally unhappy with my body. And I just decided I would just become smaller and smaller because this whole muscle building thing was not for me. And I literally like just lost most of my weight to the point where I had to get admitted. And I would say that was like pretty close to rock bottom for me. And I gave up on bodybuilding and all that. And it took me, I want to say 4 years to start thinking about lifting again after I went through all that and worked on having a healthier relationship with food and my body, of course. And then I would say it took me almost 10 years to get back into deciding, okay, I want to give this bodybuilding thing another go. I had tried from the very get-go to heal myself through bodybuilding, and I got to this point where I failed real hard, but I'm not a quitter. So I decided, let me take a second crack at this now that I've learned some stuff. I feel like I'm more mature and I can handle it. And I've been doing it for the past 6 years successfully. And my passion now is not just in bodybuilding, but it's in helping others have a healthier relationship with food and their body and doing it in a balanced way. And that's kind of, I would say, probably going to be one of my major life passions.
Wow, what a story. I think it's really good for people to hear. Thank you for telling us that story and being candid about it.
I'm not going to let it go yet. I
have some questions too. We're not going to let this go.
I'm sliding off this one that quick. You said something in there where you had a period of time where you wanted to just get as small as possible. So obviously the opposite of where you are now. And that really resonated with me. As I think you may know, both of us struggled from anorexia and bulimia, and I almost lost my life to it. And I remember walking around New York City and pursuing a modeling career and going to different, go-sees. And I was very sick and anorexic at the time. I remember having that same exact feeling of I wanted to get so small that no one would notice me. Like I didn't want anyone looking at me anymore.
Even though you were in a career, it's so interesting because I too was a model. We all put ourselves in careers that actually focus on how we look, even though we were battling it so strongly.
Yeah.
So
didn't want that.
It's so interesting.
But there's something different than the camera and actual eyeballs of a guy on the side of the street that's staring at you. For me, just the camera didn't have a face or a name or a feeling or an emotion. But Giacomo, what was going on emotionally for you when you were feeling like I want to get as small as possible?
Well, I was never really happy with the way that I fit in my clothes. I was never really happy with the body that I was trying to build. And it led to me going down this path where I literally became mentally ill, and like my life was just in a pretty bad place actually. And then I just kept getting obsessed with trying to get smaller and smaller. I was getting into fasting back then, which I find in hindsight was not helpful at all. And at one point, just like you, Dotsie, I almost lost my life. Like I thank the people who encouraged me to get admitted, because if I didn't, I honestly don't know if I'd be here today. With the condition I was in, when I look back, I'm like, how did I get there? But yeah, it's hard to say because it's kind of a dark place that I don't reflect on too often. But I guess if I were to think about it, there was a certain way that I wanted to look, and I felt like I could diet and get there and be there on the bodybuilding stage. Obviously, it wasn't sustainable, or I could bulk, but I never really was happy with the way I looked year round, because I was trying to go towards these extreme measures to change my body instead of just trying to do it in a balanced way.
And how are you now in terms of how happy you are and accepting you are of your body, especially now that you're in the spotlight as a role model of both as a vegan and as a fitness expert and a bodybuilder? There must be more pressure on you.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I do get a little uncomfortable sometimes when I am in a bulking period, when I gain a lot of weight. which is probably, so put it this way, I guess I'll use like, if I'm in like, if I have an athletic body fat set point, athletic body fat, I'm kind of okay. But once I start to move away from that and I get out of an athletic body fat range, I feel a little uncomfortable. But I still try to embrace it because I know it's necessary. The thing of it is that if you want to improve upon your body in a competitive fashion, you need to tell your body in every single way that it needs to perform. And as a bodybuilder, that requires you to be more assertive about your bulking. As a fitness enthusiast or as a recreational bodybuilder, I think you can live in that happy medium. But when you really try to push your body to its limits, it's important to embrace that phase where you're literally pushing your boundaries and you're becoming heavier than you'd like to. And so that's kind of the area where I try to focus on personally. So
you have to bulk up and then you start cutting so that you're ready for the stage?
Eventually, yeah. As a natural bodybuilder, it takes a lot of years to change your body once you become advanced. So my off season will last anywhere from 3 to 5 years, for example. And it can be uncomfortable sometimes because a lot of people identify you as a bodybuilder and they think of the way you looked all ripped and shredded when you compete. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, when's your next competition? I'm like, I'm always preparing for my next competition, but this is where I need to live right now, right. You know? And then you go to these events where there's a lot of people that are there to compete and in peak conditioning. And then of course, when you see enhanced athletes, like they can be big and ripped at the same time. And as a natural athlete, you can't really do that. And so that can kind of be a struggle to exist around when you choose to not use steroids. So that I'd say like that's definitely a struggle for me. But
do you feel like there is a emotional connection to complete healing through or via eating a whole food plant-based diet that is full of compassion and empathy and love and nonviolence compared to the other, and how that is affecting your emotional journey these days with food?
It affects way more than just my emotional journey with food. It affects my emotional journey with relationships with my fellow humans, with animals, with the environment, with everything. It literally, it makes me who I am today. So, and I feel like it makes me a better athlete. So you remember getting back to what you were saying earlier, how it's like, all right, well, you know, what are you doing differently than your meat eating counterparts that are competing? And I think that a vegan competitor's competitive factor is why we're doing this. When you look at people who compete as individuals and not on a team, because bodybuilding is mostly an individual sport, as is powerlifting, you know, you have to be a little self-centered and selfish with it. And it's like, well, I just want to be the best version of myself. And it's like, that's not what I want to do at all. In a selfish sport, I would have quit it years ago if I didn't have an actual reason and purpose for it. I want to be the absolute best version of myself so I can show what is possible by living compassionately and doing as little harm to the earth and to others as possible. And honestly, it's I can't think of anything else that motivates me more than that. And I feel like that, even more than how I eat, is what fuels me to be a competitive athlete. And I think it's the thing that vegans have in common, is that we have this purpose that is greater than ourselves to focus on and become the best version of ourselves as a result.
Hey folks, okay, back by very popular demand is our plant-powered plate fridge magnet, which you are going to receive for free if you leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. So here are the details. Just write your quick review. Does not need to be long, does not need to be a whole story. Just be honest and speak from the heart. Then take a quick screenshot of the review you wrote and email it to us at podcast@switchforgood.org. That's podcast@switchforgood.org. And include your mailing address so we can send you a power plate. We are doing this because the more reviews we garner, the higher we go in search results, which means more folks will learn about our podcast. So the power is in your hands. Leave us a review and zoom, your power plate arrives at your doorstep.
So thank you so much for tuning in today. If we helped you in any way, then click the subscribe button and let's keep hanging out together. We have so much more to share with you.
And if you need more information on actually making the switch for good, please visit us at switchforgood.org for loads of info. And you can subscribe to our mailing list where you will receive all sorts of super cool gifts, discount codes to our very fave dairy-free products, and a lifetime of powerful health tips.
So join us on the journey to switch for good. This is the future.